get a coach.
Oh.
Get a coach, learn everything you can, and start earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
That is so important. Yeah, it is so important because you've got to surround yourself with people, like-minded people.
Yeah.
And you've got to surround yourself with people who know more than what you do. And then, pick their brains and don't be frightened. Get in and have a go.
You're listening to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard. Here's your host, Tabitha Bright.
Hello and welcome to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard, where I get to speak to property investors from around Australia about their investing journey. My name's Tabitha Bright and I'm the head of coaching here at Positive Real Estate, where we help people build wealth through property. With over 8,000 clients across Australia and New Zealand, there are some incredible stories to tell, which hopefully make your investing journey that little bit easier and will inspire you along the way. So my guest today is Robin Ross. She's been part of the mentoring program for over 10 years, 11 years. And Robin shares with us today how important it is to have like-minded people around you on this journey, Airbnb cash flow strategies that work, and the one thing that stymies your investing. So enjoy this conversation with Robin. Welcome to today's podcast. Today I have the fabulous Robin with me, Robin Ross. Robin, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me, Tabitha. This is great.
Well, we were just chatting before and we were talking about, because I said to you, how long have you been with Positive Real Estate? And you said somewhere around that sort of 10 to 12 year mark. And without me going into the system and looking it up, we did some rough maths and we think it's, somewhere around that 10, 11 years, which is phenomenal because it's awesome to see people like yourself that have worked with Positive Real Estate for such a long time. And I think it gives people that are watching a podcast like this some peace of mind that, we are in for the long haul. We do stick around. You've had the same coach, Carolyn Weston, the whole time, haven't you?
Yes.
During that. Yep. Oh, which is awesome. And we were having a bit of a laugh because I said, I'm pretty sure I remember, because at the time I was coming down to Tasmania as well. And so I'm sure I remember seeing you at the first information night. And you were like, no, that was my husband came. And what were you telling me? You were not so keen.
My husband saw it in the newspaper and he said, we should go to this. And I said, no, it's another scam. So that he dragged me along and it was the best thing we've ever done. And we did have a couple of investment properties, but because we'd read books like Anita Bell's book and a couple of others, but we just couldn't move forward. And Positive Real Estate, that was just the best thing ever.
Oh, it's lovely to hear.
Yeah.
And it's not an uncommon theme. And when you think about it, it's pretty sensible. And when the coaches do that initial discovery appointment with a person that's looking to be part of our program, I would hazard a bet that 99% of them will always say to a client, listen, ask your questions and please be frank, because it's so much better to get that concern and that skepticism on the table, because then you can address the individual concerns. And I think, it's one of those industries where there's some amazing people doing amazing things that really help clients. And then there's, I was going to say the underbelly, that's the wrong word, but there's people out there that don't operate from the same place maybe.
No.
And
they've got different values. So
different
which is
priorities.
More towards themselves.
Yeah. And I think And I think so it's very healthy to have that skepticism. So we don't take it to heart at all when people have those questions for us. So how did we overcome the skepticism?
Well, you were believable. Everything you said was honest and believable. And we could see from the initial night that there was merit in what you were saying. And especially even, Jason, you brought up the cup of coffee. How many cups of coffee a week and how much money you can save and how much it would save on your mortgage. And, you know, that just made so much sense. And it was really difficult for us to join up because it was a lot of money and we weren't sure, you know, thank goodness we could pay it off over 12 months, but it wasn't easy, but we could see the merit in what you were doing from our previous experiences. So,
and that was, just so people, because sometimes everyone's got a different idea of what a lot of money is, and sometimes, and you know, there are expensive programs out there. So if I was clear for people that are watching the podcast today that may not be part of Positive Real Estate, the Lifetime program for mentoring, yes. So you've chosen the Lifetime program, and as it stands today, the Lifetime program is $9,995. So that's essentially $10,000 for lifetime. And Robin, you're testament to that, right?
Yeah, and that hasn't changed. That price is still the same in the 10 to 12 years that we've been doing this. And the fact that we could bring our children along, and we used to drag them along. They didn't like it, but we dragged them along. That some of those ideas, some of that has stuck with them, and they talk that they may not realise it, but they actually, you know, has helped them along their journeys as well, and it will in the future. Yes.
Yeah, it's sunk right in. Yeah, it's interesting what you can plant in your children if you're careful and you do it right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes it's that third party saying it, not you saying it. I find that's always quite useful.
Yeah. Because it's great because Carolyn's actually had a talk to the girls about you know, investing and how they could go about it. And you know, what we told them was the same thing, but they didn't want to listen to us, but they listened to Carolyn. So it's such a good thing because she's like an auntie to them. So it's just beautiful. Yeah. I love that personal touch of PRE.
Yeah.
And everybody's the same. Everyone, you know, there's no hierarchy as such. Everybody's on the same page because everybody's doing the same thing. They just want to get ahead in life. Yeah. And that's why
awesome.
you did it. You know, that's why Sam did it. That's why Jason did it initially. So
100%. 100%. Yep. Big fan of what property allows people to do. And sometimes, you know, everybody's investment I was trying to think of another word other than journey. I hate that word journey, but everybody's path, let's call it a path, in investing can be different. You know, some people have more resources, some people have more time, some people it's hard graft for quite a number of years, but anything is better than staying still, right?
Absolutely. And it is hard. It's not an easy process. There's a lot of work to do, especially when you've got a family, you've got, you know, jobs. You've got full-time work, and then, you know, like we had a business as well, and it was not easy at all for us. So, but now the dividends are paying off. You've got to be in it for the long term, not for the short term.
100%. And it's interesting because I was talking with another client about this. Like, markets don't always deliver when you want them to, do they?
No.
You can buy the best property in the best area, and all of the, you know, economists can be saying the market's going to go off. I mean, Brisbane's a case in point where, you know, for probably a good 5 to 7 years, a lot of the top economists were saying this year Brisbane's going to go, and it was stubborn. It got floods, it got, you know, the GFC, it got, you name it, and it got in the way. And now it's that 10-year time frame, isn't it? That it's just the pressure is built up, and now it's just going off.
Yeah.
But you
And
have to be in it.
Oh, you do. And look at COVID. Who would have thought that the property market would go silly because of COVID? Well, you would have thought that it would have gone the other way, but people weren't spending their money going overseas, so they put it into property. So it's been a really good thing for property investors. So yeah we're very grateful.
Yeah, it has. I've got a couple of young clients of mine, and I won't name them because I don't have their permission, but they're young clients of mine here in Melbourne, and they were planning their big overseas trip, and they joined mentoring to start their investment journey, but they were going to take it slow. They were going to buy one, then do this massive OE, come back, think about the family home, then think about another one. So they were in it for the long haul. And COVID hit and they couldn't travel. So they've gone and bought two more properties instead. It's exactly
and how good is that? And look how much further advanced that they're going to be in their timeline for their retirement. So that is just wonderful.
No, it's awesome to see. And I was just looking at your notes because I got you to fill out a few questions. Any good podcaster is always prepared. And I can see that your first house, you built a house for yourselves, and you and I were having a bit of a laugh before because you had a mortgage. It was, a big mortgage of $40,000.
Yes.
Which
and that was a lot of money back in 1988. So, yeah, it was. Yeah.
But it's funny now, isn't it? And we say I bought this house here in Melbourne. I bought this for just under $400,000, I think. And I remember thinking it was just such a massive mortgage. And then it's probably quadrupled in the time I've held it. And I've held it nearly 20 years. And I know it's going to double again in another probably 10 to 15. And if somebody had told me what it would be worth, a $400,000 property, even in 30 years, like I know that's a decent amount of time, but the numbers become almost inconceivable, don't they? When you, but you have to experience it to really get it, I think, because otherwise,
absolutely. And we lived in the country in Victoria, and we houses were a lot cheaper, and friends of ours were buying houses. We were paying $40,000 to build our house, and they were spending $120,000, which was just such a lot of money, like 3 times the amount that we borrowed. And but back then I could see the growth that they were doing as compared to what ours was doing in the country. So they were always a lot better off with their growth, than what we were. So, which was interesting. So
that is interesting. So location and interest rates. Like, what were the interest rates back then?
Well, we were lucky. We fixed ours in for 13%, and it was more by good luck than good planning. But friends of ours were really struggling, and they had a young family, and they were paying 18%, and that was just horrendous. And they were struggling to get milk, for their family, put petrol in their cars. I just don't. They were just working so much overtime just to survive. And it was just it was awful, absolutely awful times.
I remember one of my neighbors saying that interest rates, she said somewhere around that 18 to 21% at the peak, and she said they had to get boarders in and rent out rooms to be able to pay the mortgage, which is crazy. And thankfully not something that we're looking down the barrel of today, from what I understand. And for people that are concerned about interest rates, at the moment we are still looking at a very low interest rate cycle. We have our mentoring workshop coming up, of course, on Monday, the 7th of February. And without dating this podcast episode, we have the fabulous Dr. Andrew Wilson, who's one of Australia's top economists, coming and talking to our clients. So we're making sure that our clients have got all the information that they need to make quality decisions. So you're not caught with, under the pressure of sudden rises, any sudden surprise, really, because that's what can be uncomfortable, isn't it? And
that's what I love about PRE, the quality of the guest speakers that you have. You're always researching and giving that information to you so that you can actually make good informed decisions. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction in buying investment property. Oh, that looks good. You actually teach people how to research and do their due diligence, and that's what I absolutely love. And that's you can only read so much in books. It's it's the little fine details that make the big difference.
And stuff changes all the time, right? Like
it does.
We've got stuff changing in Queensland at the moment around land tax thresholds. We've got, it constantly changes. So unless you're somebody that likes to really keep on the pulse, I find it really useful, just even from my point of view as an employee of Positive Real Estate, a team member, to have access to all this information is just amazing.
Absolutely.
And so what was your experience with property before joining PRE? So how did you get into, what made property interesting to you?
When I was working in Victoria, a couple of the people I was working with, they had investment properties and they were telling me about it, and I thought, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And so didn't know how to do it. And my husband's boss, he was a concreter builder, and he was building 15 to 20 units. And he said to Glenn, look, I want you to come in with me. But we just didn't know how to do it. We were brought up by parents in post-war era who paid cash for everything. And they accepted that you needed a mortgage when we got married. But you paid, and so we had no idea about how you would finance something like that. So we got frightened and said no, and backed off. And it's, in a way, it's one of the worst decisions we could have made, because that would have set us up for life. But we didn't think enough about to talk to Mario about how to do that. And, because he was well experienced in property and building and buying and selling, we should have picked his brains a lot more. Again, listening to your mentors and trusting your mentors. So, yes.
Fear's a powerful thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when you've got, and I mean, we all suffer from it. I'm sure Jason and Sam would put their hands up. I've certainly had moments where I've been, lying awake at night thinking, am I doing the right thing? Have I done the right thing?
Absolutely.
And it's very uncomfortable. And so, like you said, having people that you can tap into is really beneficial. It's also, you can take away some of the weight of that concern when you do have access to good quality information. I find like you can get that information and then it's like, well, next step. Because I found when I was reading books, it was awesome general information, but then often too much had changed, or it wasn't done that way over here, and so it was harder stringing the bits together, which then made me uncertain and gave me that discomfort. So what was holding you back from investing? Was it the fact, I've got a note here that you weren't sure how to finance the property? You trusted your bank manager, but what happened there?
We ended up, we bought one, but it was a roundabout way. We built our house. We built it and finished it off room by room as we could afford it. Then finished it off, and then only lived in it for 4 weeks, and then we moved to Tasmania. So we rented it out, and then we wanted to buy a house in Tasmania because we were renting for 3 months until we found out an area we liked. But the bank wouldn't lend us the money, even though we had an investment property, our house that we built, and it was worth a reasonable amount. So we decided to sell it, and it was taking a long time to sell. And the people who were interested in it were trying to sell their place. So we thought, right, it's cheaper. Why don't we buy theirs? They can buy ours. And then we've got an investment property. So we did that, but it was an old house and it needed a lot of maintenance. And it was one of the worst decisions we ever made. You know, it worked for a purpose, but it was a bad decision for long-term investing because the maintenance, you couldn't claim depreciation on it.
Right.
So, and we weren't in the same state. So therefore trying to get people to look after it and, you know, keep it in a good state was very difficult. Right. So we ended up selling it, and I think we sold it I think we even made a loss on it, which was a bit of a shame. So, but that didn't stop us. We still went ahead, and we'd bought another couple before we went into Positive Real Estate. Yeah. And they've been good investments, but that, you know, they were hard at the time, but now they're good investments. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it's funny, isn't it? Because I've had older properties as well as newer properties, and the older properties can certainly test your desire to be an investor.
Yes.
When you get the call, the roof's leaking or the plumbing's blocked or the whatever it is.
It needed restumping, and it was, all that sort of stuff. And they had brass fittings, and, you know, you had to keep polishing them, but tenants don't do that. And, you know, it was all that sort of stuff. And, you know, in the end,
it's got a garden, it's a pain.
And it needed painting all the time. And, it was too hard. Yeah. So it was too hard. Yeah. Time to get rid of it. So we did. So, but that was our first real investment property that we had. And, but anyway,
bit of a learning curve.
Learning and you move forward. So yeah, which is what we did.
100%. Yeah. And what do your friends and family think about your investing?
Well, friends and family all think they don't understand about positive debt and negative debt. So they're mortified of the thought of the amount of debt that we got. But we know that that's not an issue. Yeah. It doesn't bother us at all because they're well and truly paying for themselves. In fact, we're making a little bit of money on them now. So, and that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter about the debt as long as you can service it, and we well and truly can. And we don't put any of our own money in it at all. So it's and that's what you're doing it for. Yeah. So, and in another 10 years, it'll be make even more of a difference, you know. Yeah. So, like you said, in for the long haul. So, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And you've got property in major capital cities in Australia.
Yeah, so we've got 3 in Melbourne. Yeah. And Carolyn was a little bit concerned that we had 3 similar type units in the one capital city.
Yeah.
But I still don't think that that's a bad thing, but she's right. We probably would have been a bit better, perhaps, you know, going to Brisbane or, you know,
diversifying a bit.
Yeah. But again, it was always finance. That's always the hard bit. What you want to do and what you can do are 2 different things.
Yeah. And I mean, Melbourne, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, Melbourne's one of these cities globally. I mean, it's been voted, you know, one of the most livable cities in the world. I mean, you can't really go wrong long term with property in Melbourne. I wish I had more in Melbourne. I wish I had 3. I don't have 3 in Melbourne. I'd love 3 in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. And
thank you. And they're only 1-bedroom apartments. And I thought, who on earth would want to live in a 1-bedroom apartment? Yeah. And but people do, and they pay good money for it. And I thought, okay. Yeah. Yep. So, but Positive Real Estate were the ones that talked to us about that and the demographics of people who are wanting to rent those type of apartments.
Yeah.
And it all made sense. So, you know, Yeah. And I rang my husband with our first one, and I said, it's near a creek. Well, it was the Yarra River. So
Oh.
I just went over on a trip with Carolyn and went and had a look at these apartments. And I said, Carol, I don't know if we can do it. She said, yes, you can. We'll figure that out later. So put her name down, paid a deposit, and the rest is history. And it was, it was just fantastic. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
And it is an interesting one, because often, and this is a great topic to kind of unpack if you don't mind too much, sometimes people hear apartments and they get concerned. And I've got one-bedroom apartment. My one-bedroom apartment's up in Brisbane, actually.
Yeah.
So I've got a one-bedroom apartment up in Brisbane, or my hubby and I do. And people sometimes go, oh, one bed is like, isn't that like the worst thing you can invest in? People have a preconceived idea about apartments often. And there's an old story that people get caught up on, that apartments don't get the same capital growth, or they don't perform as well as houses. And maybe 20 years ago, that might have held some merit. What is important is the type of apartment that you invest in. So if we were looking at Melbourne CBD, student accommodation, massive, 100-story towers with, rooms that were 38 square meters, with walls you could knock on and it felt like cardboard, 100%, that's a shocking investment. I've seen one-bedroom apartments in Collingwood that went up over $100,000 in 12 months, simply because they were designed by one of the world's best architects, and the floor plan was awesome. The outlook was awesome. Its ability to be close to all the amenities were awesome. And so you've got to compare apples with apples. And sometimes people have a knee-jerk reaction around apartments, whereas I'm a massive fan of apartments. Where it makes sense, for your investing strategy. Yeah,
exactly. And like, you can't look at it from your own personal point of view. You have to look at the people who are renting it, what they want. And I like to cook, so I like a big kitchen.
Yeah.
People in those little one-bedroom apartments don't want to cook. They go out and eat every night or every day. And a kitchen's not important to them, but where it's positioned is important, So it does. So you've got to get your head around that type of thing as well.
Are yours positioned at all for Airbnb, or are you out of the radius for Airbnb?
No, not our one-bedroom apartments. We built a house in a couple of blocks from where we live. We bought the land.
In Tasmania?
Yeah, bought the land really cheap. $28,000 we paid for it. And we built a house on it, and with the intention of, as a rental, we had a couple of bad tenants, which was really disappointing. But you get that. And we turned it into an Airbnb, and it was the best thing we ever did. I loved it. But then, unfortunately, COVID hit, and I did have a buffer, but it wasn't enough to cover 2 years. So now we've put our daughter in there and her friend, and they look after it really well. But I loved having an Airbnb. It was the best thing ever. It was such a positive experience. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was. And people always happy. I really looked after them. And, I had a friend who helped me clean it, and we did it together. And it was just, my husband did all the garden, and it was just awesome. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I highly recommend it to people. If you're that type of person, if you're willing to give a little bit of yourself, to people, and do how you would like to be treated if you went to an Airbnb.
Interesting, because I've had holiday rental myself down the coast. I had a house down the coast here in Victoria. We used to holiday let, but that was before the days of Airbnb. That was back in the days of Stays and Take a Break and those websites rather than Airbnb, and we'd sold it before Airbnb happened. But you can get some amazing cash flow with some of these strategies as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was really, really good. Yeah. And in fact, we were growing every year. Like we'd had it for 3 years and it was really growing. Our occupancy rate was 50%.
Yeah,
and
which is awesome.
Which was I was really impressed about. Yeah. And I kept my prices a little bit lower so that it would be rented more often. And we had lots and lots of families because we could sleep 8 people. And we even found my husband's grandmother's single bed, grabbed a single bed mattress off one of our beds at home, made up a spare bed in the, we just went out of our way for people, if they had small children and they needed that extra bed. So we did that because the room was big enough, you could do that. So,
fabulous.
Yeah.
Now I think we've got a tiny bit of an internet issue with Robin. Hopefully she comes back in 2 seconds. We'll just give her a quick moment. Nothing like a live recording.
But it was, and you were doing the work yourself, so servicing it all the time for you. Yeah. So awesome. Did you have someone do service yours, or did you do some of it yourself?
No, because it was a bit further away. I just lost you for a minute there, but I've got you back now. So we used to pay a property manager to look after it because it was a good 100 kilometres away from where we lived.
Well, fair enough. Yeah.
It was a holiday.
2 blocks away. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'd be quite happy to run Airbnb because I love cooking and stuff. So if ever you've got me on Facebook, you'll see me posting all my food because I love it.
Yeah. And like we've been to Airbnbs and there wasn't any tea or coffee, no sugar, nothing, where I always had a big bowl of fruit, a chocolate per person, had milk, I had pantry staples, I really looked after people. And I think that they really liked that, especially, so, and different rices for different communities.
Oh, yes.
I had 3 different rices for people.
That's awesome.
So anyway, it was a good time.
It's funny. It's I have a test, and this is not PG for anyone that's listening. I call it my. Actually, I don't know if I should really say this, but I'm going to say it. I call it my pube test. So I pull back the sheets. Everywhere I go, and if there's chest hair or God forbid pubic hair on the sheets, I'm so out of there. But the amount of times, not so much at Airbnbs, but definitely at hotels, and some of the most top-notch hotels, I'm always really careful. So anything that passes that, you're looking at me like, who is this woman?
No, but it's important. It's really important. Yeah, like we had to pull the beds back because some people would clip their toenails and they'd go flying everywhere. So, they did. So it was quite funny. But
that's
anyway,
awful.
Yeah, but anyway, that you have to ignore that side of things, because it's about it's all about servicing people and getting that income coming in. So
ignore the toenails. I don't know how I feel about toenails.
That's why we had to vacuum very carefully. So,
That's great. I like that. So for people that are at the beginning of their investment journey, what are some of the key tips that you've learned as you've invested over the years?
Finance is everything.
Yeah.
When we first started, we had 2 investment properties before we joined PRE, and our bank manager we trusted.
Yeah.
But what he didn't do us any favours at all, and it took Carolyn's help, and it took us a long time to untangle all our finance so that we could start investing again.
And we had to make secured, weren't you?
Yeah, so it was all cross secured, and we just couldn't move any further, and it was just awful. And Carolyn even came in with the bank manager one day and helped me talk to him, and she was so good, and he didn't like that at all. So, but that's okay because but he hadn't done the right thing. But we also had to make some very hard decisions too, like, with close down our business and Glenn get a job, and then we were able to move forward. Because with finance, everything is noted and detailed, and unfortunately, unless you're making a lot of profit with your own business, then the banks won't touch you. And that was really quite hard for us to do that, but we did it, and we've moved forward. And I kept telling my husband on how good he was, because we couldn't have done this journey without him making that decision. So
it's another one of those curly ones where, people want the autonomy of having their own businesses, and often with small business, we do run them lean. We want to minimize our tax as a priority and keep as much of what we're bringing through the business for ourselves, and we write everything off as an expense, so it can look absolutely terrible on paper but still be providing us with some decent cash flow.
Absolutely.
But the banks don't like that at all.
No,
and they won't lend on it.
No. And one of the other big things that I have found is by running our own business, I had to learn about business. I had to learn about and budgeting, and I had to learn about, and I started using spreadsheets to get keep things in perspective, and reconciling your bank accounts. Now, I never ever did that before we went into business, but it has been the most valuable experience that I've ever had. To learn how to budget. And you have to know how to budget if you want to invest in investment properties, more than one. You have to keep on top of your finances. And I'm looking at my spreadsheets, and adjusting them, twice a week. Whenever a bill comes in, I do it, and so
good finance practices is key. Like, be organised. Absolutely.
You have to be.
Yeah, and I think the key thing you said there was it is like running a business. Like it is. You are in the business of property investing, and if you treat it like a business, it will look after you. But if you aren't as organised, it'll catch you out at some point, and it is important. Have I got you there, or have I lost you? Whoops. Might have lost you again, Robin, but I'll finish that thought while we wait for Robin to come back.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's all good. Sometimes it's just the internet.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I was waxing lyrical.
I had a phone call come in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Whoops, you're a little bit slow. We've got you, I think.
Great.
Yay, we've got you. So it's just like running it like a business is really key, and I think that is important.
Absolutely.
And then and getting rid of credit cards was another good tip of yours, I think, that we talked about before we started recording.
Absolutely. That was I've got a girlfriend, she's fantastic. She and her husband, it's their second relationship, and they ended up with 13 investment properties. I think you met them at one stage, and she said, just, have a credit card, pay it off, just use that and pay it off at the end of each month. Well, I tried it and it just didn't work for me. And she was so diligent. I just couldn't do it. And so I ended up getting rid of the credit card. I cut it up, and it was the best thing that I ever did. So I certainly don't miss it. And there's not that temptation, you know, which I wasn't very good with ignoring sometimes. So,
yeah. Well, some people are much better at it than others. And I always have that conversation with clients. I always say, listen, this is best practice. Like if you were to run it like a, you know, absolute fine-tuned machine, absolutely you'd put everything on your credit card, then wash it out and not pay interest on it. But I get busy. I forget to clear it when I should, and I could set up an automatic payment. I haven't. And it just wasn't working for me because I'm not to that level. People it works for, I concur. Thumbs up, awesome. But if you're not that person, you're actually better off with the small amount that it does save you. You're actually better off being organised elsewhere. Yeah.
And she was so good. She would do things like she wanted to put in a new kitchen. So she would put it, you know, she would get it, say, from appliances from Harvey Norman and put it on 3 month or 12 months interest free, paid it off regularly. She had the money there, but she used their money and she used
that's very
money.
Clever.
Yeah, she was very, very clever at doing all that. But I wasn't that good at doing that, you know. So, but you got to do what works for you.
That you do. Yeah. And so my final question for you today is if you could go back in time and see yourself as you were 20, 30 years ago, what would your advice for a younger Robin be? What would you like to say to Robin today?
Get a coach. Get a coach, learn everything you can and start earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
That is so important. Yeah, it is so important because you've got to surround yourself with people, like-minded people. Yeah. And you got to surround yourself with people who know more than what you do. And then, you know, pick their brains and don't be frightened. Get in and have a go. So my husband and I often talk about if only we had another 10 years, you know, we would be in such a better position. But, you know, I think we've done okay for what we've done so far. But, you know, another 10 years we would have been well and truly set up and organised. So, And so, but you need a coach to do that. You need someone to guide you, and like someone like PRE who are similar and like-minded people. I can't emphasise that enough.
Well, you've done an amazing job collecting what you've collected to date as far as property goes, and I know it'll hold you in good stead and get you some awesome results. So, you know, hats off to you and the hubby for the awesome job that you guys have done. And I know that, you know, Carolyn talks about you all the time, and she's been putting your name up in lights saying, call Robin. And I've been running around doing stuff. I'm like, I've got to call Robin.
Oh, she's just beautiful, Carolyn. But you all are. You're all, you know, I've met you all, and, you know, I just can't talk highly enough, you know, of you. You're so approachable, Sam, Jason, everyone, you know, in the whole team, you know, Louise, you know, who I've dealt with before, you know, she's helped us as well. Everybody has just been brilliant, and I can't emphasize that enough, you know, and it's not frightening. It's you're there just to help us. So I can't recommend PRE enough. And I'm saying that from my heart. That's just not a sales pitch. Yeah.
Oh no, that's really very, very kind. And I know the team do watch these, so they'll be, you know, it will mean a lot to them because they do go, you know, a long way behind the scenes, often
absolutely
unseen.
Absolutely. And I've seen a little bit of that, and but the amount of work that it would take to get, you know, the properties over the line, you know, that you put up and offer the clients, you know, you do all the hard work, you know, and, you know, I'm forever grateful that you do that for us. I really am.
The team do an amazing job.
Yeah.
But, you know, where would we be without the people like you? So right back at you. Give me a big love fest today.
It is, isn't it?
I get the best job, right? I get the coaches to tell me who I should talk to, and I get to talk to all these fabulous people. So, you know, it's nice to end the day with such a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
So,
and there's other people who have been in our group. You know, we're all quite close, the ones that we all started with.
Yeah.
And there's another couple, and you know, they had a lot of money on their credit card, and to their credit, they listened to what Carolyn had to say. They did what had to be done, and they paid that enormous amount off their credit card. And they're miles in front now, and they're just such they're amazing that they could actually do that, and that was all PRE that helped them, you know. So it's interesting the amount of people, you know, who are in that position, and you know, it's not until someone like PRE comes along and shows them a different pathway. This is possible, this is what you can actually do. And, you know, it helps people move forward. Yeah. So, and he's now retired, and they're retired, and, you know, they're so much better off than what they would have been. Yeah, which is great.
Oh, fantastic.
So he might be another one for you to talk
I was just thinking. I'm going to have a little chat to Carolyn.
Yeah, exactly. She'll know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you. And thank you for sharing today, because, you know, it is appreciated. And I think it just means that, you know, people that might be thinking about taking a step like working with Positive Real Estate, or even, you know, people just getting started investing, makes me happy. And getting over some fear and trepidation. Seeing these stories, I think, will make a massive difference for people. So thank you again.
It's a pleasure. It was great having a chat to you again, Tab.
Well, hopefully I'll get down to Tasmania sometime soon. That would be lovely.
Well, sing out, and we'll go out for a drink or something. So
100%,
or a meal.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely on. Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you, Tabitha. You take care.
You too.
All the best. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to Property Investor Tales. Remember to subscribe so you get notified every time a new episode drops. As you can guess, I love hearing people's property investor tales. So if you'd like to share yours, then please get in touch with me via email at propertyinvestortales@positivementor.com.au. We would also love your feedback, and I would appreciate a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Remember, you can watch all of these podcasts over on YouTube at Positive Mentor or at positivementor.com.au. Until then, take care, happy investing, and bye for now.